And welcome to Hot Takes, everybody. It is I, Vaporwave personality, curator, and DJ Young Shiro, along with my co-host,
Hello.
Quiz,
Quiz,
the Inquisitor of Dagon. So,
yes, sir.
very excited to have him back on the show tonight. And we have a very exciting guest for you guys tonight. Experimental, electronic, vapor-adjacent musician and video game composer, among other things, Floor Baba. Great pull, Quiz. So we're going to be hanging out with Floor Baba tonight, getting to know them and their likes and dislikes. But just want to welcome everybody. Thank you for being here tonight, whether you are a new face or a regular or even a mod. I am glad that you're here. Be sure and fill that chat up with statements and takes and thoughts and arguments. Chat with your buddies. Invite your friends. Tweet about us if you think tonight's going to be fun, because this is live, but of course we'll also be on VOD and podcasting services. A couple ground rules and instructions, final reminders, then we're going to get started tonight. We don't do any sort of sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, or xenophobia on Hot Takes. So keep it clean, keep it kind, and be sure that if you punch up, and I mean way up. No shit talking the other Vaporwave guy in the chat, but you want to talk about like some famous musicians, be my guest. In fact, we encourage that. If you see the scrolling like kind of ticker thing on the bottom, you do have the ability to type in those commands. A couple noteworthy commands. We do have the ability for you guys to get tickets for the upcoming i2k.live show that's going to be happening in Richmond, Virginia, courtesy of Vapor VA. That's Rose Corp and Van Gogh. You can even get shirts. You can pre-order shirts, too. So check that shit out. Some other cool stuff on there, like our YouTube music playlists. Manually curated, no algorithms. All people that have been on the show and people that host the show. It's pretty cool stuff. Obviously, we would love it if you would join our Discord. And if the spirit moves you, if you want to donate, there's that link, too. So that's terrific. Good information for everybody who is new to the chat tonight. We're going to start tonight off with some recommendations. As y'all know, I am a vaporwave DJ, so I do a lot of crate digging. In fact, not a single day goes by unless I'm out of town or pressed for time. And I have 3 recommendations for you guys tonight. And as is the tradition as of late, I'm going to start with something easy, something that would just go right down. And so we're going to talk about the recent split between Pursuing Paradise and MP3 Neptune. And it's available on this really cool website, untoward.cargo.site. And the name of the album, since it's not in the link, is Soulseek Recognizant. So pretty cool. I've actually been a Pursuing Paradise fan. Maybe it's not super recent. I feel like it's sort of recent. If it's not, somebody check me in comments, because I used to being wrong. But anyways, Pursuing Paradise is somebody I've been a fan of for a really long time. If you guys have not heard any of Pursuing Paradise's work, he has a knack for sampling the weirdest shit. Like, he'll sample indie rock bands from the late 2000s and make vaporwave that like actually kind of fucks. All kinds of crazy stuff. He's got a lot of really short tracks that just really kind of capture it's always going to be like the meatiest part of the song, right? The most emotional part of some of the strangest like selections, but it just works really well. I like to think it's like if Christ's music was a little more naive sounding, that would be Pursuing Paradise. And I mean that from a place of love. But Pursuing Paradise did this split with MP3 Neptune. I've never heard MP3 Neptune's music before, but this album really, really works because other than one track, I didn't recognize any of the samples. And they are just really kind of like distorted and stretched and kind of distilled down to some really immersive, emotional takes on whatever the source material was. But a lot of it sounds kind of like 2000s pop, R&B, maybe early 2010s indie rock. So I would definitely check out that website. It's a free download, or you can buy it in WAV format for $5. They even have a donation link to a cause that they selected. So definitely great album. I was not crazy about the flip at the end. So MP3 Neptune, I'm sorry, but if you're watching, man, this absolutely like heart-rending album ended with this Numa flip that I wasn't crazy about, but hey, that's okay. It was a 99% perfect album, and you heard that on Hot Takes. All right, next recommendation is going to be a little bit more of a challenge, but if Juge is in chat, you'll appreciate I'm going to recommend a breakcore album by this artist called, what was it called? Purity Filter. So if you guys like breakcore, great. If you're a fan of like Sewer Slut or Sewer Slut adjacent artists like Agony OST, Infract, or other like, you know, kind of like, I would say atmospheric breakcore, not like Venetian Snares or Square Pusher, but like, you know, that depressive type shit. Check out Immortal Spirit by Purity Filter. It's pretty chaotic. It's pretty loud. It's there's a lot of like compression and stuff going on. So definitely winning the loudness wars for better or for worse on this album. It's a little distorted at times, but at the end of the day, it's just frenetic. It's frenetic. It's melodramatic. It's violent. And if you like stuff like that, I mean, you should check out Purity Filter's Immortal Spirit. And then in grand Young Shiro style, I'm going to challenge the audience a little bit and ask you guys to step a little bit outside your comfort zone. But quite frankly, most Vaporwave fans are also appreciators of experimental music. So I'm going to recommend an album by an artist called Pontiac Streeter called Selected. Boy, I'm just really forgetting the names of these albums. I'm sorry, guys. It is called Select Works Volume 5. It's Roman numeral V for 5. Pontiac Streeter kind of belongs to that like subgenre of ambient IDM that I've been really getting into lately. Just really strange experimental electronic music. Some people like Lyite have called it Gulch ambient. Not sure if that's a real genre or not, but I really, really like it. And it's just very sparse, very emotional. A lot of pitch shifted samples. Just very like forlorn sounding, like somber bedroom ambient by Pontiac Streeter. One of my favorite tracks that I discovered in 2025 is on it. It's called Swallow Me, and I used it in the set that I did for Nostalgia Lounge's local frequencies. That weird experimental DJ set that I did. That's enough talking. So if you guys like experimental music, check those 3 out. And without further ado, I want to hear about Quiz's hot take for tonight.
Okay, so I was torn for a long time between whether I want to do a hot take about like something relating to kind of society in general or something relating to music, but I think this is kind of both. So my hot take is that I'm bending the rules a little bit. Maybe it's not exactly a hot take, but I think that there's an ongoing sort of maybe a pressure put on us, just I think societally. People seem to think that everyone else is in like this, like a big friend group, and you have to have like a friend group that you do everything with. And if you don't, that you're somehow like doing life wrong or doing, friendships wrong. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot because, I mean it in one sense kind of empathetically. I think a lot of people give themselves a hard time for feeling like, oh, I'm not part of a lot of times people join collectives or labels or, niche, micro scenes or whatever have you in order to get that kind of sense of community. But I think, I guess this is the hot take that a lot of people I know, many of the most social people I know are not like that. Like they don't necessarily have to do everything with the same group of people or talk to the same group of people all the time. And I think that's totally fine. And I think for a lot of people who feel like they're doing something wrong, like in the vaporwave scene, because they're like, well, I'm not part of these kind of circles or niches or anything like that. I think people should, number one, kind of give themselves a little bit of credit or catch themselves a little bit of a break. I think it's an unfair expectation. But I also just think that in general, the sort of I read an article that was published by The Atlantic. Unfortunately, it's it's paywalled. I didn't save a non-paywalled version. I've been sitting on this for a second, but it's called like the friend group fallacy, and how
Love
like
the Atlantic.
there's a lot of people are just, I guess, increasingly convinced that like you need to have like this friend group of like maybe a half dozen people, give or take, and that's kind of the way that you're supposed to do friendships, you know. I linked to you actually, Lux. Let me pull the link here.
Yeah, I put a site in chat too that you can use to get around paywalls. It just archives
Oh yeah, there we go.
articles.
Perfect. Oh, that's not right.
But you should subscribe to the
Yeah.
Atlantic if you have the privilege to do so.
I was gonna say I am actually not. I have to kind of like after being burned by the New York Times, I definitely am due to like reevaluate some of my news sources. That's definitely a pressing thing. But yeah, I just
Real
want to put
talk.
this both ways. Number one, you know, people shouldn't be so hard on themselves, because they're afraid that their friendships or their social relations don't look a way that they think it's supposed to. But number two, I think we need to appreciate when other people are viewing the world through that lens. They can feel ostracized, and I think a lot of the negativity that we see from people who are like anti-vaporwave, or who kind of need to post like negative things about the people in the scene or the artists, a lot of times it does seem to come from this place of feeling like it's a clique, you know, and that they're not allowed in. And I think whenever people feel that feeling of like being, you know, walled out or left out somehow, that can often kind of accelerate these negative feelings, or this feeling that you need to do something even negative just to be like acknowledged that you exist. So I think it's a double-edged sword here, because there are definitely people, and I'm not of course excusing any of that behavior, but I think it might be worth keeping in mind, you know, when you engage with people online. One reason why kind of ignoring you know, trolls and haters and whatnot online is helpful is because it's very easy to inadvertently play into their game, or play into their sort of constructed view that, oh, you and everyone else is laughing it up and making fun of them and whatever, and you're shutting them out deliberately. And you know, it can go a long way to just be cognizant of treating people that way, even by mistake, and playing into that.
Well said, buddy. I think we need to figure out what our guest of tonight
Yes.
thinks about that. So if you're not familiar with Floor Baba, man, are you in for a treat? If you found them through the vaporwave scene, if you found them through experimental electronic music, if you found them through their work composing video games, great. Got to recognize you for your good taste. If not, like I said, you guys are in for a treat. So Floor Baba graciously agreed to join us tonight so we could pick their brain a little bit. And I think the time has finally come for me to go ahead and ask you to unmute yourself, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Hot Takes.
Thanks for having me.
We're immensely
welcome.
excited. What do you think about what Quiz said?
That's a good one to chew on, because I have one knee-jerk reaction, and I have one that's maybe a little bit nuanced. And I'm speaking from experience on. I think that there's a type of person who feels shut out, who then locks in and like earns their place. And I would consider myself to be one of those, where for a really long time early on in my electronic music, you know, time, I was submitting to labels, I was trying to get recognition, I was trying to brush up against people who were more established than me, and it just plainly wasn't going well. But I didn't let that stop me. I just said, well, clearly I know that there's more people out there like me, and that this is not unworthy of chasing just because it didn't work immediately. So then I started my own label and got more people around me that were like that. And then that's how we started Desk Pop. And then that was an audience that we all built for ourselves. And then that, you know, brings us into the, you know, ecosystem closer to vaporwave people doing the same thing, closer to the nightcore hyperpop folks, closer to video game composers and stuff. So my knee-jerk reaction is just lock in and build something. Don't try to
Mhm.
tear stuff down, build something. My second reaction to that is there is something to be said for being exclusionary on accident, because even now that I'm more established, it's easy for me to not have the time for somebody, or to not give them the opportunity that I wish that I could, or not sit down and get to know them better. So it's just one of these things of life where it's like, you know, there's maybe no fixing it, but it's all about your mindset, I think.
Yeah,
Well
totally.
said.
That's why I was I was really kind of cautious how I was phrasing it, because I didn't want to make it kind of seem like there was a right or wrong kind of takeaway from this. I totally agree with you that I think I can speak the same. Like, I got into vaporwave like right around, COVID. Um the beginning of the right just about the beginning of the pandemic. And so obviously a few months before the quarantines. So that was a great time for vaporwave. It was a very kind of how to say, great time. Obviously, I'm saying that with a measure of awareness, but I did feel like I kind of was able to be heard. Like, I was able to talk to people in the Twitch chat, and it didn't matter that I had to be known by everyone else already. I could just drop my now I'm not recommending this. Isaac especially will not like it. But my thing is, I'll just come in, I'll just start dropping puns. Everyone can appreciate a good pun. I'll say something really silly. I'll make, who's playing right now? What's the track ID? What kind of pun can I make on this? And then people either love it or they hate it. I usually end up becoming friends with the second group.
Unbelievable.
But but I think it's true, because there are a lot of people who have that feeling of wanting to belong or wanting to be a part of something has motivated them kind of positively, and there's certainly people who have been motivated destructively by that. And I think, at the very least, if there was something I could say in the realm of like advice or the way people should behave, is maybe be aware of maybe you seeming, as you were saying, you know, seeming dismissive of someone, or seeming to not value their time. Sometimes, especially online, you just don't know what the other person has going on. Lord knows I've had a lot going on. I've been hard to reach. Hope no one takes that personally.
And especially as someone who is trying to do the reaching out and not hearing back, getting left on scene. I used to get super booty hurt about that, and then I just realized, like, a lot of times those people are just overstimulated, or they have a lot going on, they're multitasking, they accidentally clicked it and then didn't mark it as unread. Nobody's ghosting. I mean, it may happen, but most of the time we're humans. And we got a lot going on, and it's nothing personal if somebody doesn't answer your DM. What I would like to kind of kick off the show, finding out from you, Floor Baba, is what was your earliest experience that you can remember, like seminal experience as a child, I imagine, when you had a musical moment or an experience with music, and it became evident that music was important or was going to be important for you?
Way back, probably like one of my earliest memories is that we had an old like out of tune piano in the house, and I just was obsessed with like playing it and like figuring out like why certain notes combined sounded a certain way, or why one note sounded good and one note sounded bad because they were more or less in tune, right? So that kind of thing. And my mom tells me a story that one time when I was like super young, I couldn't have been older than 3rd grade. I told her something like, we were like outside, and I was like, everything is music.
Oh, that's
so, like,
adorable.
The birds, the air, everything, and I was just kind of like, oh wow. I mean, I do believe that, but I guess I always have.
That's adorable.
Yeah, I love that moment where it kind of clicks to you what music is. I think that's kind of an underrated, because music is different things to different people, right? I think something that kind of really struck me with electronic music, this might sound completely crazy, but something that struck me with electronic music and why I started to enjoy that, where I spent a lot of time growing up, just wasn't able to connect with it at all, was realizing I like something about the rigid timekeeping of a lot of electronic music, and just how it's very deliberate, and it's almost like a way. It's like a way to slice up time. If that makes sense. And that's of course what a song in the context of a DJ set is too, right? It's a way to occupy time. It's a way to move an emotion in a certain direction. And it was a weird thing because when you're not playing to a metronome, or you're playing kind of looser with time, kind of playing an instrument, it's not quite the same way. You can speed up, slow down, and there's different ways of experiencing that same time. A lot of electronic music, it's the same.
I've always been a sucker for the effects. You know, before I got really into electronic music, I was a huge shoegaze fan and like post rock. Yeah, huge shoegaze. I thought I'd be a shoegazer for life, and then I started realizing that like the real like reverberating pads of like deep house music, or just like literally just like any strange way you can warp a sound, just really like scratched my brain in just the right way. So I think that's why I'm drawn to electronic music personally, because I love effects, especially echo and reverb.
Yeah, I liked it. Like I came to it like a weird like back alleyway where I just love video game soundtracks, and video game soundtracks I was growing up with, you know, NES, Super Nintendo, N64, PlayStation.
Hell yeah.
Were all, you know, sequenced. So they were sequenced pieces inside of a disc, right? It wasn't people playing it. They didn't have the space to have a recording of a person playing a song, so it was all small samples sequenced with MIDI. And so I just got obsessed with learning how they did that, because I was like, well, if I want to do this one day, I better know how they did it back in the old days, right? And so I got into chiptune, and then I got into electronic music production. Nice. And then I just, when I didn't have a good time getting into the scene and like getting jobs, I was like, well, I'll just go and be a solo artist. And then that just kind of took me somewhere.
Now, I have to ask, on that note, to kind of segue here, growing up with sort of, well, can we talk about some of what would be some of the formative games and kind of soundtracks for you? Just kind of put us in the right,
I want to know that real bad too.
And genre.
Yeah, like at the time when I was young, I really liked the N64 game Perfect Dark by Grant Kirkhope.
Nice.
Oh
yeah, it's like really dark, like electronic, kind of like kind of techno, kind of deep stuff, clubby stuff. Of course, other Grant Kirkhope games like Banjo-Kazooie. I really like Conker's Bad Fur Day.
All right, you like that Rareware stuff.
Yeah, I liked Rare a lot. And I also like HAL Laboratory stuff a whole lot. So Super Smash Bros, Kirby 64 was a gigantic one. I mean, I'm still chasing
the crystal
that
shards. We just talked about that with another guest, and we were talking about like, oh, I love the snow level music. I love the Christmas Factory music. Like 2 episodes ago, I can't remember who it was. That's awesome.
Yeah, and whenever I sit down with like another composer, like most of the time we end up touching on that for at least like 20 minutes.
Yes.
Like it's just like it's such a phenomenal sound from the future that like we're all still chasing that. And of course Glover 64 was a huge one.
Nice. Have you played Bomberman Hero?
Yeah.
That's another. There's some pretty wacky tracks on that OST, but like I mean everyone loves Redial. You know.
Yeah. It's like this bizarre like drum and bass, but like the musical choices are so odd.
Very experimental with some of those levels.
Yeah, I think that's Jun Chikuma, and she rocks.
Yep, that's right. I didn't want to mispronounce the name, but that's exactly who it was. I'm a big fan of the
I probably am.
I'm a big fan of the Paper Mario soundtrack myself, but that might just be through nostalgia.
No, it's amazing.
I thought so too, but yeah, I feel so valid. Do you want to chime in with some of your favorites, Quiz?
You know, it's interesting. I was kind of a late bloomer when it came to gaming. I really got into like the PS2 was like my first console, and before then I was kind of playing PC games. So I always kind of cite my my 2 kind of, or maybe 3 games that really got me into into gaming period on my own, as opposed to like playing something at a friend's house, was Diablo 2 and the like Baldur's Gate Icewind Dale series for BioWare. So those are very like kind of more on the orchestral side of soundtracks. So I kind of missed the whole chiptune era essentially.
Oh,
of
you
gaming.
missed
And
a
it's
lot.
something I've
Damn.
kind of been
Go
revisiting.
listen to the Mega Man 2
in
soundtrack
reverse.
right now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, every time I get a rec like that, it's nuts. Like it's crazy, and I'm like, yeah, this would absolutely rewire my brain chemistry if I was listening to this growing up.
Yeah.
And even now, I'm like, just the like, anytime someone posts anything from some like SNES game, NES era, I'm just like, wow, Discoholic actually, the Discoholic radio show, he would do on Twitch, the get requests
WDSK.
for the DSK, yeah. I heard so much incredible. And you're expecting, disco, dance music. You're expecting, maybe some jazz. And there are so many songs from games I have never heard of, games it doesn't seem like anyone has ever heard of, that were just every genre, bangers in every genre you can imagine. So I love hearing about it. I don't have a lot to contribute because I didn't grow up with it as much. But if you're saying like, oh, it might just be nostalgia, I really don't think it is. I have no nostalgia for any of those games, and they still like blow my mind.
Yeah, and the timbre of them, like just the methodology of how they were made, they have such a sound that like we don't have today. Just the small samples, the bit crush samples, just it's a patina that the music just doesn't have anymore, and it's still interesting to go back and be
great way
like,
of describing it.
yeah, to go back and be like, wow, like this just sounds so different. And if somebody was doing that today, like we would call it like micro music or something, like it's
Sure,
so,
yeah.
I've been
people
playing,
still do stuff like that.
I've been playing the Grandia for the first time on PS1 on a CRT, and it's like very crunchy sounding, but also it's got like this sheen. Patina is a great word to use. It's got this like crunchy sheen. It's hard to describe, but like it's definitely not, the high bit rate stuff that you hear now. It's different.
Yeah,
it's compressed.
yeah,
it's very of its time.
and a lot of them were like were so skilled in knowing what to do with that technology. Like they knew what they could get away with, or what sounded good, what didn't. And speaking of like a CRT, like the artists knew how the blurring effect would work, so they would do pixel art so that it would actually blur and get all these different gradients.
The emphasis on the like face that the character was making, like you could deduce what they were doing with so few pixels. It reminds me of like there's a story of, I guess apparently when Bjork was instructing Matmos in producing a lot of the tracks on Vespertine, she wanted the tracks to be able to like be made in such a way that they would sound just as good on like a shitty pair of AirPods or earpods is what they used to call them, just as good as they would in a club. And so they apparently purportedly produced this album in such a way with all the little like micro like clicks and glitches that it would sound just as good. So like working with those limitations, you gotta respect it,
Yeah.
So this
Matt
actually-
Most and Bjork are,
Right.
It's actually
Chef's kiss.
I was thinking about this in relation to the Pac Man Snack Breaks series that just debuted, but 3 days ago, that you and kind of Pluswav Cooperative did the soundtrack for. And I was actually really curious about how you approached that, because having watched it, it's all very glossy and hi-fi, and kind of it's got that that modern ear candy to it, even visually, so how did you, what was it, can you share a little bit, I guess, about working on that, we can just talk about episode 1 because that's the only one that's out right now, but what was it like working with that from the background of Pac Man, which is of course an extremely kind of lo-fi bleepy bloopy, if you will.
yeah, it's from the earliest days. It really is.
Yeah. So what was it? So how did that? Can you kind of talk us through how you were able to approach it? Because you can't just make those sounds, right? Aesthetically, and even just for the sound design, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah, and even when we use like a well, I guess let me preface it with this way. We we kind of got an ear for and an understanding and appreciation for the soundtracks that they wanted us to quote from. So they gave us like a list of stuff that anyway. So we kind of just knew themes that we like and characters that we like, and as we wrote, you know, you don't have to use those sounds to use that theme. You know, it's a collection of notes and you can do whatever you want with it. So there are moments in the show where we get to kind of flirt with those ideas and make people go like, oh, was that the theme from this arcade cabinet? But now it's, you know, in this more hi-fi sound.
That's
So it's a
too
lot of
cool.
stuff like that, like getting a musical understanding of it, not just like a sound design or not just like a referential, because we also bend the themes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a lot of time when we think about a lot of like stuff like arcade music. You know, people get hung up on maybe kind of superficial aspects of it as opposed to the composing of it. But something that I didn't feel like. I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable about the music of Pac Man or just Pac Man games aside from the arcade ones. So
Hmm.
like, I didn't feel that anything in the soundtrack was, you know, kind of a reference that didn't feel like it fit, if that makes sense. Like, oh, this is kind of a weird one. This must be a reference I'm not getting, you know?
Yeah, we tried to we try to make the whole thing as a cohesive whole, just like sound good, support the action, never poke out in a way that strikes as odd, and the team as well helps to make sure that that doesn't happen. But we do get to have a little bit of fun with hiding those things in, and I was so happy because somebody sent me a comment that was out there on like the YouTube or something, that when there's a character Miru or Milu, I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing it, but the little green ghost that
Mhm.
that hung out with Pac Man and Pac and Pal. It's from a game called Pac and Pal, and the background music has this one little melody in it, and I quoted it real fast when she first appears in
Ooh.
the series, really
Mhm.
Like a
fast.
little
And
leitmotif.
also, yeah, and also I interpolated it, so it's not the notes directly, but
Mhm.
it's the flourish and it's the
Mhm.
cadence of it. And somebody caught it, and I was like, yes,
Yeah, that's
Nice.
awesome.
Oh, I bet that. Yeah, I bet that was badass feeling.
Was there a
it felt
reference
good,
like
yeah.
that for the wizard? Because I was like, man, I don't know if this guy's from another game. He's cool as hell, and I remember listening to his kind of I should say their kind of theme and thinking, man, I know that this is probably from a game, but I also know that you're probably really good at making wizard music, so I don't want to discount you.
I made it up. I made it up.
Yeah, that was
Oh
great.
shit! You heard it on Hot Takes.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a quote.
Also,
I
Floor
love
Baba,
the wizard and I love
official
Mirror.
wizard music maker.
A wizard of wizard music.
Yeah. Whenever they come up in an episode, I'm like, I want that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So-
I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead, Ivan.
I didn't mean to step on what you were about to say, but
Mm.
could you walk us through making a track?
Like a track for hire for animation.
Honestly,
just-
I would like to know like what what is it like? What is the process making a track for an album of yours, and how does that process differ making a track for a video game? You know, a track for hire.
A track for hire, usually I have more more rigid constraints and even like industry constraints, maybe at time
Of
or
course,
be
I'm
it
sure.
like direction and such. But typically I'll see the thing that I'm writing to, and I'll get a feel for one, the pace of it, like how fast is the action, how fast are they talking, here's a joke, how do I lead into the joke with a regular beat, stuff like that. And then I'll kind of start going backwards from there. And sometimes I'll start with bass, sometimes I'll start with chords, drums, just a weird sound. It kind of depends. I don't be too rigid about the how it starts to build, just that I've got a goal, a moment that I'm trying to highlight.
I got you.
But for my own music, I kind of tend to think in big themes. So I'll be like, I want this kind of sound, or I want to have like this kind of art, Right now, to be specific, I'm really into like the weirdcore aesthetic, and I'm
Nice.
also really into like minimal glitch music. So I'm trying to marry these kinds of sounds and visual aesthetics, and that's my goalpost. And I'm kind of finding ways to that through, be it through just musical ideas or understanding how the artists get there in the first place and then warping that to make it my own, or playing around with hardware or guitar pedals or chopping samples, whatever it is to get me to, closer to what I think that sound is. And then certain like nodes of ideas will start to stick together, and I can drill down there, and then songs start to form. A project file lives longer than a day and stuff like that.
All right.
I don't know if this is too abstract a question, but what kind of nodes do you usually find tend to crop up? Do you find yourself like, oh, here's a bunch of ideas that are all in the same key, or these are all like similar chords, or do you approach it from more of a audio production side?
I think it's like aesthetic and feeling, and also maybe a specific thing. Like, let's say that, I'll give one example. If I can pick up that glitch music and maybe like old weird warped vinyls that are in like liminal kind of sounds, all have one thing in common, which is like little pops and clicks. I'll be like, okay, so there's something with pops and clicks and mid-rangey stuff that gives this sort of feeling, and then I'll start to drill down there and be like, what sounds good, what cool ideas can I have? So I might do something like treat one type of click or pop as a kick drum, and then one type of click or pop as a hi-hat, and then maybe if the beat's too regular, I will be like, what makes it sound like it's a vinyl rotating? So then I'll make like maybe an out of time hi-hat that loops regularly, so then it sounds like something revolving. So it's stuff like that.
Very IDM.
Yeah, I'm drilling down there a lot right now.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Well, I've been on that tip. So,
can you talk a little bit maybe about just using kind of an example from Through Here, which came out also 3 days ago. It was a busy day.
Yeah, I didn't do that on purpose.
I mean, yeah, I know you probably didn't have control over that, but it's certainly exciting because kind of a new, I guess, I don't know, album, EP. I don't know if you have a preference on how
I
to describe
consider
it.
it an EP. People are calling it an album. I think it's an EP. It's not very long. It's 5 tracks, I think.
Just as a quick aside, is that your kind of cutoff for an EP, is kind of length, track number?
I consider that, yeah. Like if it feels too short to make like a CD of, then I consider it to be like an EP.
there you go.
If it was like 8 tracks, I'd be like, that's an album.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, totally. Like Prehistory is like 2.5 times as long. So that very, very much feels more like an album.
I literally reposted a conversation on Blue Sky about that very same thing today with the hot takes. Blue Sky, and honestly, like for me, it's always been like if the total runtime is less than 30 minutes, it's an EP. But that's just a personal, just from listening to a lot of music for a long time. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and that kind of lines up too, because if you imagine that each song is about maybe 3 minutes, then you're looking at 10 songs at 3 minutes would be 30 minutes. Or if you have, 340, maybe a 5-minute song in there, 8 songs would be about 30 minutes.
Yep.
So it's about that same bit.
Yeah, it also, might be tied to the genre or the style of song as well. Of course, if you're doing very long kind of songs to begin with, then fewer tracks might be an hour.
Yeah.
I think I always like to ask artists, because I feel like sometimes you can get into interesting conversations about what people consider an EP versus people consider an album. I've heard someone once said, I wish I remembered who it was years ago. Someone once said that like an EP is like a collection of songs, and an album is like one thought that's broken up into songs. And I'm like, of course, they're speaking just for themselves, right? So that's a really interesting description I've never heard before because it's just that particular artist's idea. Like I wrote 5 songs, I'll put them out. That's an EP. But an album is, more thought out. It's more cohesive. It's more, cohesive.
Deliberate.
Yeah, deliberate. There we go.
Yeah, that could be so.
For me, the EPs that I've been releasing, like I have the idea and the concept, and the want to do like a larger album, like I did with like Prehistory and all those albums that I've done, but because I was just working so many effing hours all the time, I just couldn't get it up the hill. So then I would just I would be like, okay, well, I'm gonna release this stuff. It's gonna be 30% of the vision that I had for it, but I still try to have that overarching theme and that aesthetic appeal and like just that theme. They all have a vision. It's not just like here's 5 songs. It's like here's a nugget of my idea and I can't do it anymore and I'm on to the next one.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it's hard for me because I'm like still actively working on music. I haven't really released anything yet, but I've been in the process and I've been kind of feeling that same way.
You've been cooking.
Yeah, a lot of things have been going on. And I also just deal with like chronic pain, chronic fatigue issues to begin with. Sometimes I'm kind of really, having trouble just making time for it. But over time, I was like, okay, well, how can I get this to the bare minimum of a skeleton of a song, and just so I can have something. And if I can go in and flesh it out later, add layers and add, more parts to it, I can do that. And then as I did that, I got more and more just not maybe obsessed, but compelled by the idea of like making, say, dance music with the fewest number of parts. Like what does the skeleton look like, and can the skeleton still be something satisfying on its own? So I find that a really interesting question to ask people, because one thing we see a lot in the chat, in the kind of chat submitted questions, are like, how do you get projects over the finish line? How do you motivate yourself?
Yep.
How do you get that a lot? Yeah. And it's like, I think and I say that because I think it's a great question. It's a question that took me many years to answer, which is why it took me many years to, make music, in a sense. And I think that every time we have a guest kind of answer that question for themselves, there's a couple people in the audience who are like, oh, that's how my brain works. Maybe I should try that. So that's really fun to see. I'm hoping, if when we get to that part of the night, I'm sure we'll get some good questions.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would like to know, what are some of, as a music lover, like what are some of your favorite acts and artists?
I'll give a couple from like my early days of like what I've always loved.
Give me like the all-timers, and then like tell me what you're into now.
Some recent stuff.
Yeah, let's do that.
I love Meshuggah. I love Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum. I love Mr. Bungle.
All right.
Those are big ones.
Nice.
I love Steve Vai.
All right.
What else?
Vai rocks.
I love. There's a death metal band called Nile, which is like, as I get older, it's a little bit, I'm kind of like, I don't know, guys, but it's really, really sick music, and gave me an ear for like, outside scales.
Yes, for sure.
Lesser used scales that I still bring with me everywhere. A lot of people ask me like, oh, how do you have this sense of harmony? And I'm like, I'm just repurposing weird death metal stuff. Nice. Like a lot of what I do. So those are kind of like some big early ones, not counting like video game composers and stuff. And these days, I'm really into, there's an artist, Ryoji Ikeda, who does like minimal audio visual stuff. Okay. Like he considers himself a composer, but he also does like touch designer art installations and stuff. I'm really big into him right now. I'm also, let's see, what else am I into these days? I'm digging a lot into like Brian Eno's stuff, which I didn't grow up with. I'm coming at it without nostalgia.
Same.
There's Hiroshi Yoshimura is another like Japanese ambient artist I really like. His stuff's very like heartrending. So it's a lot of stuff like that, and then
Nice.
just kind of digging through like more like aesthetic pools of things. So like the liminal crowd, the weird core crowd, this sort of weird new world that's opening up where individual artists are kind of, they're like, it's not as much like ego based, right? They're making a weird thing to be part of this weird thing, and it's not like, look at me, I'm weird, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah. Definitely.
And originally I felt like Spotify and like algorithms and stuff was a detriment because of that, but I also think there's a weird, I mean, it's lasting. These people are continuing to do this, so it's a weird world that I'm kind of opening up to there.
I love that idea of kind of this less personal, or maybe less. That was a big draw for electronic music for me as well. Even vaporwave, I like the idea that somebody would. It seems weird in retrospect, but as somebody coming from a lot of metal and prog and stuff like that, it was really fascinating to see someone who's like, my goal is to make background music, or my goal
Mhm.
is to lift what's considered background music, smooth jazz and kind of R&B, to kind of elevate that further. And I like the idea it's like not about necessarily who you are or what personal aspect you bring to the music. That's everyone, because it's weird core. Everyone is already kind of different, so you're not sweating the individuality of it because that's always already kind of baked in.
Yeah, and there's also the weird homogeny of like, if we're all weird, then how weird are we?
Oh my
Well,
god.
yeah,
Right?
sure.
Because it also,
Yeah.
it's kind of like it
Yeah.
eats itself, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know, like, you better have a unique spin if you're gonna step out, I guess, really. But
Yeah,
I'm
and-
also just
yeah.
interested in the idea of just like less ego in the artist. I think that's stepping forward a lot these days, and Ryoji Ikeda has a nice he said it well. I'm gonna paraphrase, but basically like his art is to try to find like the beauty and the everlasting nature of something without being in front of it, without like having to church it up. Just like, here's like, I'm getting down to the essence. And also another big one is Ryuichi Sakamoto. I forgot to mention him, but
yeah.
I first kind of got tipped off to this world through his album Async, where he was also chasing this kind of stuff.
I
A
got
lot of
into
Sakamoto lovers in the scene.
Ryuichi Sakamoto from seeing him in the Japanese like comedy like variety show.
No
And
way.
it was really funny. Like, oh, who's this famous guy who lives in New York and hangs out with David Bowie? Like, what's his deal? And I was like, oh shit, okay, he's a musician. Oh, this is
You gotta
awesome,
link me
actually.
that.
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
link me.
It's a Gaki no Tsukai special from like the late '90s, I think.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
familiar
great.
with that. You gotta
He
link
was
me.
there. Yeah, he was there, and
Yeah,
like
that's
like
wild.
oh, here's my big shot friend who lives in New York, and that was who he played in the skit. But clearly it was like, who is this, Japanese musician who is this famous that everyone is kind of treating him with this reverence.
And so soft spoken.
Well, that's what. So in this skit, basically, one of the members gets punished for not doing his job well, and his punishment is he needs to hand deliver a ballpoint pen to Ryuichi Sakamoto in 24 hours, which means that he has to get on a flight to from Japan, from Osaka to New York, in like 1997 or whenever this is, hand deliver the pen to his apartment, and then come back and come to work the next day. And he goes there, and then Sakamoto will not open the door for him, and is always just super mean, and is like, "Get out of here!" And he tries to hand him the pen, and throws the pen at him, and makes him fly back to Japan and get another pen and go fly back out. Now, there's some troubling climate implications to this in the modern lens, but at the time it was funny because
LMAO.
he's acting a real dick in that skit, and it's intentionally sort of not what he's really like.
No, that's funny. I'd
Really
like to
good,
see
yeah.
that.
I'll find it. Yeah, I'll find the link.
We actually have a curated playlist. I'm not as knowledgeable about Ryuichi Sakamoto as I should be because I grew up under a rock. But speaking of the curated playlist that previous guests have made, I asked Mesh if he would make us a playlist of some music that he liked, whatever he wanted. He said, sure, I'm going to make an exhaustive introduction to the work of Ryuichi Sakamoto. That's going to be my playlist. And so our official YouTube playlist from Mesh is all that guy's work. Y'all check it out.
All knower.
Yeah, it's a good one. Oh, there it is. Right.
Yep. Well, I
Good
just
playlist,
linked
yeah.
the link to just all the playlists. There's some good shit in there, y'all.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, seriously, there's
Shameless
some
plug.
really good stuff in there. I was like, oh my, I forgot. Oh yeah, I did one of these.
You
Better
did.
check that out. So I had a quick. I mean, I know we're kind of coming at our break here, so we might take a second. But on the topic of kind of ego in as an artist, or sort of operating out of this kind of egocentric role that artists are commonly find themselves in. What's it like? I mean, working with and having a kind of major role in a cooperative, like in an artist collective, where I think a lot of people like the idea of collectives and kind of a lot are appealing, but then you get kind of caught up in the, well, who's gonna be? How do we organize this? How do we organize ourselves? Who's in charge? Are there any kind of questions like that you all have to work with? Maybe something you can share with our audience that might help them when they're kind of putting together this type of collaborative effort.
I think one thing that helped is that a lot of us have known each other for several years, and we all have been working in the same scene for so long that kind of by the time we get to work together, we're familiar with like how to behave in a work meeting. We're familiar with like you've got to do taxes. We're familiar with like how to step out when it matters and step back when it's just not worth the battle. So there is a lot of that, and we don't agree 1000% of the time, but usually like we can call each other and just be like, hey, like maybe we shouldn't say that. And then they'll be like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't. All right,
Yep.
fine. Or like, I want to say X, and I'll be like, well, what if we said X plus Y and we edited a little bit so that we're not being antagonistic, but we're coming from the same side? Because I have a lot of experience with, I was a professional email writer for the corporate world for so
No
long
way.
that I'm like, I know how to do this, right? So stuff
you know
like
how to
that,
kill 'em
where
with
like,
kindness.
yeah, like it, like
Yeah.
one of our team members might want to step out and like kind of push back on a client with something, and I'll be like, here's how you say it in a way where like they're gonna hear you because you're on their side rather than coming to them and like stepping on toes.
I work in sales as a sales manager, and that's absolutely
sorry.
Hey, buddy, I am in your corner, man. Here's the thing, though.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
I'll
It's a lot of
survive.
that. Yeah, but yeah, so it's a lot of stuff like that. Basically just like never getting so big for your britches that like you are really being antagonistic. It's more like here's the thing we want to do, here's the different ways we come at it, and then we talk through and be like, what one are we willing to take the risk on? Or if we're going to take that risk, how do we mitigate the risk by maybe doing a slightly different stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. Like I think like knowing each other ahead of time is a big one as well. It's just easier to work with people that you already know. You already know how to communicate with them, and ideally how to like mitigate conflict or resolve conflict as well. So there doesn't have to be that when you're in the middle of something having to learn something about how the other person works, right, or how the other person communicates.
Yeah, and we still do have a little bit of that, but it's like everybody means well. Everybody's figuring this out together, and no one person is 100% right all the time.
Is there like a group I don't know, like a motto or some kind of ideal that you all kind of that you hold in your head, like this is what we want to do, or we want to be like this?
Yes, and I've actually had to kind of fold into line because coming from my background, I was very familiar with like kind of, playing the game, maybe working with people that you didn't necessarily align with, or taking jobs that maybe were cool, but ideologically there was something to it that you didn't agree with. Like that's just the world that I grew up in, and that's how I, survived. But getting into this group, we are a lot more, we're a lot more steadfast in our principles, and like not at all bending those or flexing them. And I had to be brought into line because I was always like the odd one out, being like, well, it's not the worst thing to work with this or do that, blah, blah, blah. And I've been proven wrong. Every time that we said no, that room was immediately eaten up by a better situation. So it's like, I'm glad that we left that room. And eventually I was like, I'm just going to shut up. I'm just going to let you guys lead on those ones. I'll let you make those calls.
I think that's so important, because honestly, one of my hot takes was going to be, what I want to make my hot take was, I think this sort of like get your bag culture has gone like way too far, where, when we talk a lot about like how, let's just example, personal pet peeve of mine, but like people changing the way they speak and using like certain couched language, like censoring themselves because they're afraid of being censored on platforms. And I'm talking about not being able to say things like the word kill, right? Like and it's like, well, I need to do this because what if I were to become an influencer? I would need to protect my bag. Like, what if I were to become famous? I can't get banned off TikTok or Instagram for saying, kill instead of unalive. Like, what about my bag? Like, the bag I could be getting. And it's like,
if your bag is hypothetical, don't concern yourself with it.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Like, if
you need to get the real bag.
You need to get the real bag, and then you can like start thinking about stuff, because frankly, there's not enough stories about people doing what you're doing and getting these kind of like opportunities to work with, like Pac Man, getting to work on, on indie games, and not having to, make those compromises. Not having to be like, yeah, like we did a really awesome soundtrack for like the Palantir anime, and it's like,
yeah, and I'll counsel myself. Like a year ago, I would have been open to that. Like a year ago, I would have been, well, I mean, maybe we can take the money and maybe we can just do something cool with it. Blah 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 blah.
Sure, yeah.
But I have been completely convinced, and I've been proven wrong, that we don't need to do that. And I can leave that part of my life behind me, because we don't have to do that. There's enough good stuff and people who want to make good things that are coming into our orbit, because that's where we're standing. That was something I had to unlearn.
I think we all
I used to work in automotive, so I was working with all the two of the big 3 automotive companies in America. I was deep in the belly of the beast, and I got to leave, and I'm like, I guess I can unlearn some of that stuff.
Yo, it is time to take a quick break. Everybody, take 2-3 minutes, use the restroom, get a drink. We're going to be right back, and then we're going to get into the wild shooting from the hip portion of the show. So, take a quick one. We'll be back.
It's just music.
Pick a record, okay? Just pick any record. Any record. Okay. What's the hit side? Okay. Now ask me what's on the flip side. Just ask me what's on the flip side, okay?
What is on the flip side?
You don't ask me things like that, do you? No, you never ask me what's on the flip side.
I don't give a shit. Shrevey, who cares about what's on the flip side of a record?
I do! Every one of my records means something. The label, the producer, the year it was made. Who was copying whose styles, who was expanding on that. Don't you understand? When I listen to my records, they take me back to certain points in my life, okay? Just don't touch my records. Ever.
And right before the show started, Floor Baba and I were kind of talking a little bit about Detroit and how delightful I found it, especially Dearborn. And apparently, you lived in Detroit for a little while. So that was pretty badass. Got to see the RoboCop statue.
Hell yeah. I was waiting to mention it.
Tons of great eats and great people. And we'll talk a little bit more about New Visions later, but I would like to know, and hopefully everybody feels freshened up and that little break was rejuvenating. What would you consider to be like a musical guilty pleasure of yours?
Who, me?
Yes. Quiz, you can answer too, but I want to know what your musical guilty pleasure is, Jesse.
Guilty musical.
Do you believe in guilty pleasures?
I would say I mostly don't. I think that if I listened to like Drake, I would probably say that was a guilty pleasure.
Real.
Just because there's so many connotations with that. But I don't think I really have any of that. I think when I was growing up, my guilty pleasure was that I liked weird music like game soundtracks and Steve Vai, but that aged well, so it's no longer, I'm no longer
right.
on board.
You were proven right.
I feel that way about a lot of things.
Yeah, I unironically like most things that I like. And even if I listen to something outside, if I say I'm listening to some country music or some like Christian music or something like that, I'm still able to pick it apart analytically and appreciate the things about it that are being done well. And then kind of leave out the stuff that I don't like and just be like, yeah, that part's not for me, but like these cats know what they're doing, XYZ. So I don't really have too much of that.
I was going to say, I grew up in a religious evangelical household, so there's a lot of like kind of like the edgier like Christian music that came out in the 90s and 2000s that I still really love and will listen to unironically like at the drop of a hat. There's
like
this
POD.
Oh, I mean, I love Satellite. There was this synth pop artist called Joy Electric that was on this label called Tooth and Nail. He's like a pastor in Orange County now, but he made terrific synth pop music, and I loved it growing up. I will tear up some late 90s, early 2000s Christian music.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. For me, I was just thinking about this. I got a lunchbox that I take to work. It's an NSYNC lunchbox.
Nice.
From like 2001. It's super old. But I always wanted to have one of those like metal lunchboxes, So I picked it up somewhere, and I was thinking to myself, like, man, when I was a kid, growing up in, again, the early 2000s, I kind of thought, like, you're not allowed, like, pop culture made it seem like, oh, like, if you hear, like, Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or something on the radio, like, oh, you're not supposed to like that. Like, that's, that's music.
Well, everything was so, like, hyper masculine. Everything had to be, like,
exactly.
Like, extreme at that time. Like, everything was just so...
And I'm growing up, I don't know any better, right? And I'm just like, like some stuff is like, okay, gender roles are like, I don't know that gender roles aren't enforced, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to like sneak glimpses of like Sailor Moon when it's on TV, even though I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to be watching this.
Oh my god, it's so good too.
It's so good though, yeah. And I'm like, oh well, like, luckily for me, I was able to get into that sort of, like early anime from other ways. But I think about how much different my life would have been if I just it was as simple as just telling my younger self, like, you're allowed to listen to this. Like, no one, like, It doesn't actually mean anything. It doesn't actually say anything about you. And going back and listening to stuff like NSYNC and being like, oh yeah, this rocks actually. Like, I actually really like this. And if there was a genuine sense that I wasn't supposed to for some reason. And so I don't really have guilty pleasures, so to speak, because of that reason. I mean, like, you can see from my shirt, like, I'm a huge Linkin Park fan, and like, people would love if I was guilty about liking Linkin Park. Like, that's a band that people are like, why isn't it guilty? Why aren't you experiencing guilt for liking this? And I'm like, I'm sorry, man.
Irony. We are post irony.
Yeah, no one told me when someone told me I wasn't allowed to like Linkin Park, it was too late.
Right.
I didn't realize until pop culture hating on Linkin Park. I wasn't even exposed to that for many years. you know. Sorry, go on.
I'll say that maybe one that kind of counts is Korn did a dubstep album. Do you remember this?
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
Korn did a dubstep
Totality
album,
something,
and I
or
would say
something.
it's like it is a little bit embarrassing to put it on, just because like Jonathan Davis's lyrics are not amazing in it. It is kind of corny because you've got this like new metal meets dubstep. Both are like genres that kind of are almost caricatures of themselves. They're so they're so like unnuanced, in my opinion. But it goes hard. It's
It
good.
goes,
I
huh?
like it.
Wow.
I like it. I like it. It's got like Skrillex on it. It's like Skrillex plus Korn. I mean,
That's
like,
a
that's kinda
terrific
crazy.
answer to the question.
Yeah, that is.
I love that. It
because
took a minute. We got
rock fans always have that like you're not supposed the Black Sheep album, you know, you're not supposed to
Yeah.
like I mean I wish I liked more of those albums, like Cold Lake by Celtic Cross, if anyone knows what I'm talking about with that one. Like Celtic
Ooh,
Cross,
I'm actually not familiar.
they're like an early black metal type band, but they kind of made like a glam rock album in the 80s. And
I did
it's
not
just
know they did that.
fascinating stuff. And that's fun in metal, especially because you get these really out there kind of one-offs. And I guess I kind of know I get what you're saying. We're putting this on for other people is kind of like hey, listen, just hear me out on this. But it's still, I don't know, like I definitely agree that you like music being a guilty pleasure is kind of like the other person's problem, you know.
Yep. That's a very great statement. That's the other person's problem.
Yeah. Like you can't make me feel guilty about this just because you feel guilty about it.
I like that.
I am free. What's your answer?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
free. I can enjoy this.
I mean, I like Korn. Like I like a lot of that like new metal type stuff. You know, it's weird. I think for me growing up and just being like listening to like stuff like Creed. I'm like, okay, some of these are kind of heaters though. Like they were. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. But again, I growing up with new metal, it put me in a very interesting.
Well, it's just kind of like
place.
there's a phrase that people use, and I can't remember what it is, but it's when like the world was a lot smaller, and we would all watch the same TV show on Friday night. We would all come talk about it. I can't remember what the phrase is.
Monoculture.
Thank you. So
Monoculture.
Creed and Linkin Park and NSYNC, that to me, like in my opinion, was kind of like a monoculture. Because it's just like it was everywhere, you know, and for better or for worse, we don't have that anymore, you know. Maybe we do a little bit.
Yeah, I think that the monoculture is very interesting though, because you also don't see. I mean, you still see somewhat, but the idea of like, oh, that song's overplayed. I'm tired of that band, or that song is overplayed. It's having this conversation with someone like I've been going to a lot more like goth nights, like dance parties in Philly the past couple of years. And one thing that's really fun for me is I can hear something like Blue Monday and not like I'm like, this isn't overplayed for me. I haven't heard this a lot. Like bring it on. I'm not tired of hearing this yet. And there's a weird delineation, I guess, because overplayed music nowadays is kind of whatever's, you know, on the top 40 of right now, and that's it. But it's like, you know, no one is listening. No one is having music from the 70s, 80s overplayed for them right now. Does that make sense? Like you're not like turning on the rock radio and hearing Smoke on the Water, you know, multiple times a day anymore, which was kind of interesting for me because I caught I think I caught Smoke Underwater on radio recently. I was in Chicago and I was like, this is kind of refreshing. Like I don't know that I've heard, you know, it's been so long. It's kind of new.
I think even just like radio is so much less of like the culture that going back to that, you almost have like a weird nostalgic appreciation for it. Like, oh, you know, it's kind of like the cable television of the car. Like you just like put it on, you're like, what am I gonna check out? And then like, it's just you're
Something
there
for the background.
You're experiencing it rather than like hyper
Very
picking
passively.
what you're gonna do. Yeah, and because I do still think that like rock stations still have like so limited of a selection, but I think that I have a weird nostalgia for even just the idea of like putting on the radio and like you just hear what you hear, and like the songs are good, they last that long for a reason, right?
Exactly. Like one hit wonders, you know, as a concept are so interesting now. Like I think about, because I've gotten really into, or I'm embracing having always been a fan of like late 90s, early 2000s, like Eurodance type stuff, and being like, man, you know, the kids nowadays, is What Is Love overplayed for them? They're not hearing it in like YTM&Ds anymore and getting tired
Oh my
of
God.
it anymore.
Oh my
Like,
God.
is this just like super fresh to somebody who's like 20, you know, or 19? That's really
Like, you gotta
exciting,
hear that.
actually. You know, like,
I mean, I'll
that's
never
the
get
part.
sick of like Return of the Mac or whatever. Like
Yeah, oh,
ever,
yeah.
ever.
Oh, yeah.
ever.
Oh my God, what a
You know.
banger.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I
I-
guess
I
you
went-
know.
I went to
Yeah, if there's any younger folk in the chat, let us know what your experience of the radio is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love to know.
seriously, because the other side of that too is that I grew up, you know, I had a really long bus ride, so I would be listening to like an hour and a half one way on the school bus and just listening to the radio. So I was listening to like a lot of Destiny's Child and like Usher and just like R&B stuff, you know, in the greater Philadelphia area. So there's a lot of R&B soul stuff on the radio. And I love that stuff now. And I'm like, I don't think I would have become like such a hardcore like R&B like boy group, girl group, you know, En Vogue, Boys to Men, like all like I'm just super
Really
into all
well
that
done.
stuff. And
When I figured out about like what all Babyface produced, I was like, okay,
yeah, exactly.
I'm in.
Exactly.
I'm here for the ride.
Yeah. And what's cool for me is just knowing that I don't think that would have ever come into my life otherwise. And then weirdly having like weird feelings about like the sort of resurgence of a lot of like not just K-pop, obviously K-pop is the most visible version of that, but just a lot of that sort of group pop coming back into kind of pop culture and seeing how it kind of is and isn't how it used to be. I bought Fan Mail by TLC on CD a couple weeks ago, and just like, wow, this is such an experience with the TTS voice on it and everything that was like so groundbreaking. It's the
Yeah.
clean version too, and some of the
LMAO.
just even listening to the clean version of an album is kind of a novel thing for me.
Yeah. Like,
What
you
is
used to
the
have to,
weirdest?
Like what was the censorship language around? Because that literally was censorship. So like, what was the discourse like at the time when like you had to like edit yourself to go into Walmart and get your CD in there? Like,
Oh,
what was
good point. I forgot about
like-
that. Walmart
Yeah,
was
yeah,
literally
like-
like making people censor their albums so that they could sell in the like highest traffic store of the nation. I could
Yeah.
you
Yeah, like-
unearthed a memory.
What was the discourse around? Like, we have evolved this a lot because like now that's not a concern that we really
Mhm.
have.
True, yeah.
You can do
And-
what you want, and it's just like it makes money or it doesn't.
And that particular TLC album too, like they are trying to be kind of matching boy groups for raunchy content and kind of sexually confident lyrics. And it's so fascinating that they have all these really sexually confident songs that are like cut, then they chop out all the like, it's really daring to, you know, at the time for them to be kind of explicit. I want a man who will do X, Y, Z to me. And then they just cut that out. So just, I need a man who will what? And it's like, all right,
Nice.
but certainly
I
we're
love that.
missing something here, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I could have just used
but for
elephant
you to-
noises like
fine.
Missy Elliott.
Yeah, exactly. I love Missy Elliott.
A queen.
I love Missy Elliott. So
What is the
Another one that
we-
like, when I was younger, I was like, I'm not supposed to like hip hop, and as an adult, I'm like, what a groundbreaking artist! Like,
Oh, yeah.
wow.
Hell yeah. I'm so sorry. I've been trying to ask this question. What is the weirdest music that you're into?
There's this album that I really like right now. I think it's called like music for vending machines, and it's like an album that's like 90% field recordings of just like
Nice.
vending machine hum, and I really
my
like
God.
it. Yeah,
I
I'm
do love a
blanking on
good
the
field recording.
yeah. I'm blanking on the artist at the moment. It's on my Bandcamp, like my
Unbelievable.
Bandcamp fan account.
I think Lux found it. I think Lux found it and posted the link in chat. There's a 2023 remaster. Unreal.
Yeah, it's really good, and there's a little bit of musicality. There's some chimes. There's some like almost like wind
Like
chimey synth
incidental
bits that they
sounds.
had. Yeah, but it's mostly the drones, and I just found it so fascinating. Like what an ear to have that and then highlight it, and also to, speaking of like take your ego out of it, just allow that to be the art and step out of
Wow.
it and be like, listen to this hum with me. So stuff like that.
That's
yeah, absolutely.
terrific.
There's one that was kind of popular recently. It was something like music for hospitals, like field recordings from hospitals. I don't know if you've heard of this album. It's actually kind of
This is about to be the next vaporwave like mini movement.
It's funny because
Aleatoric vaporwave.
I'll try to find it. It's got a really horrific picture of like a CPR dummy as the cover art, so you'll recognize it immediately. But it is that one is interesting because there is something about like the ventilator noises and the repetitive beeping and stuff that is like unsettling, and it kind of like if you kind of come into it with the idea that the hospital is sort of an unsettling place, or it conveys that for sure. But I think on the other side, like vending machines as a topic is kind of neutral, kind of impose your own feeling on this more ambient type of music. Yeah. I gotta find. I'm gonna try to find the album.
And like it's music that puts you in a place, and like that's the whole function. It's just to like kind of transport you. I like that.
I mean,
stuff
as
a lot.
Concept.
Having spent a lot of time in a hospital the past month, I'm like, yeah, this is just like that
hilarious.
album I was listening to.
Yeah.
Like it actually, I was thinking about that.
Getting a lot of music for hospitals vibes from this.
Yeah, a guy who was only listening to music. Yeah, exactly.
There's a
And-
Fantomas album, one of Mike Patton's
Ooh,
projects.
yeah.
Speaking of Mr. Bungle, I think they had there's a Fantomas album called Delirium Cordia, and it's just one giant long like terrifying track, and it's about surgery, I guess. And at the very end of the album, it just is like 10 minutes of just a ventilator sound. And I thought that was pretty. I'm sorry, I don't listen to the whole 10 minutes of it, but it's pretty impactful.
Yeah, that's
Very
horrifying.
terrifying
That's
outro.
That's one reason I really like Mr. Bungle's California album, because there's a song on there, I think it's called Pink Cigarette, where it ends with like a countdown and like the beep of some type of piece of equipment, and it's like the kind of closing out of a life. Really, that's probably like my favorite
Dark.
albums, California.
Dark.
That's a frogs. I could be. I mean, I have a lot I want to say, but I want to make sure I do cover this one question. I did want to ask you a little bit about working on Egg Squeeze. I have been playing. I was saying this before we went live, but I was playing some Egg Squeeze. It's an indie game. It's on Steam right now. You guys can all play it. It is very. I'm just not gonna say anything. It's about squeezing eggs. I'm not very good at it, but I think that's the point. And I feel like being not good at it is kind of helping. I got the poor intuition achievement almost immediately. So it's hard to describe, but I will say briefly that basically you're trying to squeeze an egg until it breaks, and you're trying to kind of intuit how long when you should let go of it. So you let go of it right before the egg
Sounds like a
reaches its,
WarioWare game.
breaking point. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, actually, yeah, it does. And it's fascinating because unlike a traditional, I mean, I may be missing something, but unlike a traditional game, like there isn't like a meter or an indicator or really anything, or even like haptics to make you have an idea of when the egg is gonna crack. So it's kind of almost like a leap of faith in a lot of ways, to just sort of, I'm gonna hold this egg for 6 seconds, hold it for 8 seconds, and maybe it cracks, maybe it doesn't. And what I found fascinating about it is that when you're doing it, and while you're actively squeezing the egg, there's like a little sting of music will play. and it's always slightly different. It's always a slightly different genre, slightly different mood, some like more dancey type stuff, some, you know, stuff that's definitely would you would consider kind of vaporwavy sounding. And absent any other stimulus, I find myself like focusing in on the music and trying to somehow like communicate with the music as if the music is going to tell me like, okay, after 12 bars, you know, let go of the egg or something. And the highest scores I've gotten, I think I got a 97 and 98, were both from like I felt like I locked in on the music. And I don't know if I should even say that because maybe that is a secret to it. But can you provide any sort of background on working on Egg Squeeze? What that was like? The music for it.
The game design, it started as an inside joke between Joe and Adam. Adam had a dream that there was a game called Egg Squeeze. It was a premonition, really. And the whole goal was that. So they made a working version of the game, like just a mock-up, realized it was pretty fun and it had the potential to be funny. And then a little bit further into the development, they brought me on, and then we together kind of built this universe and this aesthetic and this story. So it is a psychological horror game about squeezing eggs over the course of 3 days. And as you progress through the game, more and more UI elements are unlocked that give you all kinds of cryptic information, and it's up to you to intuit what to do with all of that. There's no instructions. We don't tell you. I don't even know how some of them work. I've asked Joe, so it's even like at that level. And it really is just about like you growing your intuition about the game and about the egg and trying to, you know, not break it.
Yeah, I love the concept of like you're like everyone will find their own way. It kind of reminds me. It made me feel like it was kind of a reflection on almost like on fandom culture, where it's like people who kind of read, you know, they will consume a piece of media and they will kind of decide this is what it's about to me, which may, you know, their own personal read or their own personal relation of that piece of media to their life. So, and then they kind of see, oh, well, can you see all of the symbolism is pointing toward this? Or, you know, it's a, you know, the egg hates being squeezed. So when you get negative feedback, that's, you know, or maybe you think the egg loves being squeezed. So you decide what the game is trying to tell you based on your own perception of what's going on. That stuff is really exciting. I think it's really fresh because there's just no answer for it. It's not a game where you sit down and you try it for 5 minutes and you go and look up a guide. Like, you know, it's just
it makes people insane, and I love watching.
That's a mechanic,
streams.
actually.
Yeah, it's like
It
I
sounds
love
like it was
watching.
effective.
Yeah, like watching streams of it, and like there's also something kind of sinister about it, where it in some people it also kind of unlocks like a gambling thing where like some people will get really into the high of that, which we have to be a little bit like, we saw that and we were like, interesting.
Yeah.
But of course there's nothing to actually lose. I mean, like you're not it's $4 and there's no DLC or anything like that, so like it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just kind of interesting to be like, we made something that's truly kind of sinister.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So
Highly
like,
recommended, by the way.
We do also kind of consider it to be a little bit of an allegory of gambling, a little bit.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But,
What a
but
work
yeah,
of art.
it's the game design is specifically antagonistic and cryptic, and we love to see people going insane about it.
Yeah, I love the idea that it's, you know, it's antagonistic design, but at the same time it kind of it feeds into that kind of gambling. I guess gambling is a really good way of putting it. Well, you know, the idea that like when somebody's gambling and they decide okay, this next one is gonna be the one. They you know, everyone comes to that for a different reason, from a different perspective, right? It's like, oh well, you know, I got a feeling in my gut, or you know, some kind of sensory physical emotion, or if it's just cognitive, but there's always
It's
that
my
feeling of like,
psychokinetic intuition with the egg.
yeah, my intuition, yeah. And I actually was expecting there to be some kind of like, oh, play with the controller and use like the haptics to figure out when like the egg is about to crack. Like, no, it's not like that at all. Like, there's no right way to do it. You just have to figure out whatever way works for you. And you could you know, like squeeze the egg for like a half a second and let go constantly a million times and kind of progress that way. But it just, I think most people will not will not do that.
In the game, you can beat the game. We didn't want to make like an impossible to
Mhm.
beat game or one that people
Mhm.
wouldn't get their money out of or not have fun with. Like Joe's design for the game was actually quite ingenious. I actually don't know how he did this, but the way that he programmed it really did kind of, it brings people into a certain window of behavior if they're paying attention or just kind of feeling that eventually if you do kind of get in tune with that, the game stops fighting you as much. So it's not purely an attack on them and like, you know, a big F you. But you do kind of have to learn that there's when to take a risk and when not to.
Yeah, I remember reading something about satire or pastiche that comes from a place of love versus a place of like hate, if that makes sense for the source material. And I almost felt like as this ominous egg squeeze is, there is something wholesome in a way about it being a game that is extremely cheap, that has no DLC, it has no like cosmetic I mean, there are achievements, but it doesn't have any of these, you know, what they call like dark patterns, things that make you addicted, or things that are kind of reinforcing you to keep playing or be addicted to the game. And so it is kind of liberating in that way. It's a way to kind of engage with the sort of gambling side of your brain and just kind of let it run wild and not have to feel like, you know, you're gonna lose your real life money for it or something. I
Yeah,
feel
there's
that
nothing at
way.
stake.
Yeah. I feel that way. I've been. I could and I won't talk too much about this, but I've been playing a lot of the new Marathon game from Bungie, and that's another game where I feel kind of feels like that, where it's deliberately kind of designed for you to lose a lot, and for it to be satisfying to lose, rather than it be the kind of game that is addicting because you're always winning and you're always hitting the jackpot, so to speak. I did find the Hospital album, by the way. Sounds of the Modern
I
Hospital.
saw you
by
post
Mark
that in chat.
Vernon. Yeah.
Check that out.
The label Death is Not the End, really fucking cool. Highly recommend. It's like a lot of archival music of like weird niche scenes. You know, they could do like swing influenced Chinese music, classical
wow.
music from like the 20s.
That's
There's
awesome.
One comp they do. Of course, I have all of their dark wave,
Nice.
like old wave compilations, 'cause that's my thing. But
y'all,
lots of
it
good
is
stuff.
time,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it is
Yes,
time to go
no,
ahead
no.
and start the audience question portion of the broadcast tonight. So y'all check out that label, the quiz linked, but definitely fill that chat up as well for questions for our guest tonight, Floor Baba. And while you get those questions rolling, I'm going to go ahead and get one last shot in and just ask, what is an act that you like a lot that you can guarantee that we've not heard of?
Ooh, a
I can
guarantee.
guarantee you haven't heard of. You know, I'd be inclined to say that Ryoji Ikeda that I've been listening to a whole lot. I don't think anybody that I bring him up to, they don't seem to be familiar with.
I only
thanks
know
for
about
putting
him
us
because he
on.
posted. He's
Yeah.
posted about him on Blue Sky.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's a tough crowd because I feel like there's a lot of music heads here. Like,
Oh yeah,
I don't feel
that's one
necessarily
beautiful
out of
thing about
place
the
here.
vaporwave scene. It's a lot of people that are like into weird music, you know, experimental music and just music that's in the outer circle, kind of left field shit, you know.
Yeah. I'm even like inclined to believe that people here would be familiar with like Georgi Ligeti or like Ioannis Xenakis, those like you know, Stockhausen, those early electronic and serial composers and stuff. I don't doubt that there's people in the chat
You
that
do
are
love
familiar with those.
composers. I have picked that up about you. It seems like you have a real appreciation for people that treat it like an art, almost a science.
Yeah,
and in a
absolutely.
good way.
Yeah, like there's still got to be heart, or still got to be like vision there.
Absolutely.
Because there are composers out there that are just like talking out their butt, but I there's a lot of it that I just find to be extremely thought provoking.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for putting us on. Dreaming Diary wants to know what your favorite tracker is.
My favorite tracker, I would say, personally I use the Dirty Wave M8 a lot in my practice now. I love that one. It's one that's based on LSDJ, I'm told, but it's its own beast. I really like that. As for one that's actually, you can get the headless version, so it's not hardware locked, but if you're just making chiptune, back in the day I used Fami Tracker all the time, and I really liked it. I found it to be very intuitive.
Very cool. Roche Corp says, who looks cooler in glasses, Quiz or me?
Why do we have to pit bad bitches against each other?
I know, right? That's a great. Hey, y'all clip that.
I'm saying.
The answer's Quiz. Y'all keep those questions rolling. How many hours a day would you say you listen to music?
It is my job now, so pretty much from beginning to end. So, but a lot of it's like mine, and it's just like compositionally. Recreationally, not that much. I'm trying to make more time for it. Maybe like 30 minutes a day is recreationally, but I'm trying to improve that more.
Love that.
Do you find that like there's a certain activity that you like to do that maybe are you listening to music like eyes closed, headphones on, not doing anything else? Or are there certain activities that you like to listen to music during?
That's a great question.
If not your own.
Yeah, when I used to like drive and commute to work, that was a big help, but it's been years. I worked from home, and then now I work from home still. So I lost a lot of music listening time in losing my commute. But now I'm learning watercolor painting, and I find that listening as I do that, as I do that, having music on ambiently is really nice. To just kind of not be thinking about the music so analytically, because my brain's preoccupied, and then getting more of the emotional effect of it.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Quiz? What how much do you listen to music every day, and what do you like to do? That's an excellent question.
Oh yeah. So for me, my biggest, for some reason, I don't drive. I work from home and walk to the office, so like I don't have a lot of like that. But I'm also at home a lot, so I like listening to music when I honestly like listening to music more or less on its own. My favorite thing I think is if I have a video game that I will play that has like a driving component to it. So if it could be something like, I think it was Just Cause for a long time. It was Need for Speed, Unbound. Any game where you can drive around and just driving around, just put on a record, put on a tape or something, and just kind of do something. I like having something kind of occupy like my hands with. One thing I'm getting back into now that my has an arm issue that's kind of getting better. I used to build model kits a lot, so I have a bunch of model kits. I'm planning on just put on a record. It's always put on a record or a tape and then build a model kit. It's like the tactileness of it, and like the not like my computer is in this corner of the apartment. Like my records are behind me, and I'd be over there. So I'm not even near the part of the apartment that has the computer.
I got you.
It's just my records. It's my model kits, and that's perfect.
Nice.
For me. Yeah.
What about you, Isaac?
Well, I usually will like crate dig a little bit every day, and I do it in the morning. So like when I'm booting up my computer, I'm checking out my checking my email, getting caught up on social media. I'll either like buy an album and listen to it, or I'll let a like track that I really like on SoundCloud play. Just kind of like let. I don't rely on the algorithm, but like I'll let like the songs that are like similar to that song play, or I'll check out like an artist's likes or whatever. Don't want to give away too much of the secret sauce, but I'll do that in the morning, kind of like while I'm getting ready. A lot of times when I'm off of work and I have like chores and errands to do, like if I'm sweeping the house, vacuuming, just menial work, that's when I'll do my crate digging. And one thing that I really like to do is I like to listen to an album one time, and then I like to listen to it again the next day, so that I can like go like, all right, well, I liked it a lot last night, but is it really good, or was I just in a great headspace? Or like, was I drunk? Like, let me listen to this again sober. You know what I mean? I had another thought that one thing that I've been doing lately that's kind of strange that I don't typically do, but like I just got back from a week-long vacation, and part of it was, of course, spent in Detroit, but part of it was at home. And one of the things I was doing was just kind of like revisiting old favorite albums, but not through any rhyme or reason. Like I would just hit the shuffle button and just be like, what's the next song that's going to play? Oh, it's an M83 song. I'm going to listen to this album. Or like, oh, it's some weird, Christian punk rock band I used to listen to in high school. Fuck it. Let's listen to 90 Pound Wuss. I don't care. I'm going to listen to the whole album, And it just had a great time. But anyways, to answer your question, I try to do it every day, and usually like while I'm getting ready for the day or when I'm doing chores.
Oh yeah, if I'm getting ready for the day, brushing my teeth, make sure wake up
Yep.
a little bit extra early so I can put on a record or something. That's always nice. Like make tea and put on like some jazz fusion.
And I have to be doing something that's like not super like cerebral, because I want to kind of listen to them. I want to give the music my full attention as much as I can.
I can't do anything
like
too
listen
demanding.
intently.
Mentally demanding.
Actually, I just thought of an artist that a lot of people probably wouldn't know about that I like.
Yes, who is it?
Quiz talking about Kit Walker. Kit Walker is a jazz fusion artist, but he had a couple albums back in the late 80s that are just phenomenal. Dancing at the Edge of the World, Dancing at the Edge of the World, and I think the other one's called Fire on the Water or something like that. Both of them are absolutely top tier jazz fusion, and probably like some of my favorite albums I've ever heard.
Luxury Lead already lit up the chat with
That's
links.
right. I was
Amazing.
about to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It. Amazing.
Yeah.
I knew
the
it would
first
come
one,
to you.
Dancing at the Edge of the World. I was like, wow. There's so much music that I don't understand still. It was so eye opening. Like the sense of melody, the sense of harmony.
Oh, Zakir Hussain on
the
tabla.
arrangement.
The actual tabla goat is on this album.
Wow.
Yeah, he passed.
I'm not as knowledgeable about
the greatest
jazz fusion
tabla
as I would
player
like.
ever played on this.
Really?
The word. Yeah. Zakir Hussain.
Wow.
He passed away about a year and a half ago. So it was a lot of tributes to him, but I did not know he worked on this type of stuff.
A lot of these cats are getting up there too.
Oh yeah. Okay. I can't wait to put this
check
on.
that shit out. Smooth Brain with a terrific question. Let me scroll up.
Yes.
An evil wizard has compressed your soul into a CD. What color is it, and what is the first song that plays?
I think that it's probably black with a chroma effect on it. And the first song that plays is probably some type of dark ambient jazz.
I need to hear dark ambient jazz because I don't think I've ever heard of those things mixed together.
John Hassel.
John Hassel.
Okay.
John Hassel.
Dark ambient jazz. Yeah, link me to this shit. Like I said, I grew up under a rock. Shout out fundamentalist evangelical Christianity.
There's what
John
album
Hassel.
is I really like? It's one of his last albums. I think it's Music for Memories or something. Pentimento 4. I don't know but it's sick.
Thank you so much, guys. Keep those questions coming.
I think that's
We've
good.
still got a few more minutes.
I actually got one for you. While we're waiting for chat questions.
Yeah.
Are
Go
there
ahead.
labels or genre labels that you find kind of are interesting, that are stimulating, that are kind of provoking? I think you mentioned weirdcore. I've noticed something with people who are into weirdcore is that they embrace the label in a way that I don't see people really embrace labels as much nowadays. And I think there's something there. Maybe, maybe you have some insight on this.
I think
Like,
I could probably be put on to that because I don't have that at the moment. My interest for weirdcore mostly comes aesthetically from like the memes and stuff.
Mhm.
Um,
sure.
and then just like random playlists. I'm kind of a fake fan that I don't dive super deep into like who's making what or where it's, coalescing. Um, I'd be interested in that though.
Yeah, I think, well, like the example I always kind of say is there's a lot of people who are in the who we have a as hot takes as a vaporwave kind of themed talk show, but a lot of artists are in different spheres, right? There's a lot of overlap between like, well, do you consider what you make breakcore, or do you consider it like drum and bass or jungle, or these type of conversations for artists can be very interesting to me because a lot of times it's something about like fitting into that style, fitting into that mentality. I know a lot of what was it? Like Dream Breaks is one that I heard. It kind of like vaporwave zero type, like drum and bass with these really lush reverby sounds. I've heard Dream Break as a description of that, like dreamy breaks.
Mm.
But it has, I noticed that like that was something like, oh, well, this is a cool way of thinking about it because I'm now, maybe calling it vaporwave doesn't really sound right. A lot of the people who are inspired by this sort of like Y2K turn of the millennium stuff are, I think a lot of it is in the vaporwave scene, but I don't think a lot of those artists would call themselves vaporwave, especially just because it's a different era that they're kind of looking at.
Yeah, I think I'm picking up what you mean. There's a genre in like my world of like jazz fusion, electronic music, video game people, like
Hmm.
post chiptune kind of people, or maybe even
Okay.
still in chiptune, called digital fusion, which is like
Ooh.
fusion music that's
Oh.
digital, made on the computer, oftentimes mostly sequenced. And it was a term that was coined by Ivy of like the Steven Universe soundtrack and Inflorescence Records,
Okay.
that a lot of us have kind of picked up and ran with, and it's become its own scene. But what I like about it is that um, there are people who think of it too prescriptive. It should be that you're just within a certain type of high production quality patina, fusing whatever genres of music you like. And maybe the goal is to sound like you could have been a video game soundtrack, but you don't need to be. And so it's this kind of like, it is a label, but it's kind of indicative of a mindset, more than it is a sound.
So the fusion in question is not
Wow.
necessarily like jazz
Digital
fusion. It's just
fusion.
a fusion of influences.
Yeah, just
Okay.
like, it doesn't even need to be
I
the jazz
love
part. It can
genre
just be
bending, so
fusion.
that really appeals to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, yeah. I've never heard
Yeah,
of that before.
there's a whole scene of it, and just basically just taking whatever you like and blending it and trying to find new ideas. And a lot of the people using it are the composer types, so there's just a lot of out there
It's
ideas and takes on it.
musical alchemy. Like that sounds
Yeah,
really
yeah.
fascinating.
I've been talking with people a lot lately, I think, about the liminal liminal media and like
Hmm.
there's a Backrooms movie that's coming out, right? And it's like, well, people associate a lot of those elements with like vaporwave or with, liminal music in broadly, but it's fascinating to see how there's so many different ways to describe that sound or that approach.
Hmm.
And I think you're gonna see a lot of people. This was a comment somebody made about like, is there like a big kind of jump in like vaporwave or experimental electronic, a creative like upswelling that's happening? And I think that is happening. It's
Hmm.
just not necessarily. You kind of have to know what to call it. You have to know what people are calling it. I think that's more important
Yeah.
than it maybe has been in a minute. You know.
Yeah, and you have to be able to pick out the essence of that like liminal bit, because even when vaporwave was first getting started, and I might be talking out of my expertise because I came at it from a weird angle, like here was vaporwave, here was me, and we were kind of coming up and then maybe like split, and now it's kind of coming back together and all of that. But it was that sort of like unsettling emptiness that at first drew me in as well, that we came to understand as being liminality. And then liminality, once we had a term for it and that essence of it, that can go into a lot of different places. Doesn't need to just be vaporwave, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I do think that there's something to that, because even now with my new music as floor baba, not for hire necessarily, I love that essence of liminality, and I try to bring that with me even when I do more maximalist stuff.
Too cool.
Yeah.
Great question by Luxury Elite in chat, if I can ask that real fast.
Yeah.
Do you have any other influences that you incorporate into your music outside of composers, video game soundtracks, etc.? She said, I know you mentioned earlier you find music in everything. She'd love to know specifics.
I would say machinery sounds I'm really big into right now.
Me too. I love
just
deconstructed club music.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I do like acid house and stuff like that. Especially the musical practice of it. It's so like elemental, and once you understand those elements, like the musical ideas almost feel a form rather than like, it's just that aspect of it really interests me, like with techno and house.
It's very genre.
Yeah, like understanding those building blocks, and then once you have that, you're like, oh, I can do that here, or I can do that here, and it's like, it's a 303 bass line that's 3 instead of 4, and it's revolving over itself, right? But then you can just, once you understand that practice, you can change out the sound, you can change out the notes, you can make it longer, shorter, but you understand that like that's the thing you like from that genre. Detroit techno music,
Nice.
was a big one. That's kind of living in Detroit made me realize that music had such merit and such cultural importance, and how they came to that sound, and that was big for me. So yeah, lots of stuff. I blank on specifics a lot of the time. It's just not how
Me
my
too.
brain works. But yeah,
Hell yeah.
hopefully that answers.
I need to listen to more techno from Detroit and more house
Yeah,
music from Chicago.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Like,
underground
stop
resistance.
being a dilettante.
Yeah, all those cats.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Jeff
yeah,
Mills.
I
Oh,
can
yeah,
never-
Jeff
of
Mills with
course.
the 909. I mean, oh my God, what a it's so interesting to see someone be virtuosic with a drum machine, like treating it like an instrument, truly. Like that's a good one.
Yeah, that's the type of stuff that I feel, like if you came up listening to hip hop, you end up finding a lot of similar approaches in house music. If you grew up in house music, you find that a lot of these kind of sampling and production oriented genres, come from a lot of the same source, if you will. And they're always like Chicago and Detroit are two of the places that are always doing something cool.
Yeah, to this day,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, we have a new
Dreaming
new
Diary would
question.
like to know, what was the reasoning behind the I Still Miss You album art?
it just looked kind of ominous, I think it's like, it looks like if you're not familiar, the album art looks like a pillar, but it's actually, I think it's a sprite of a curtain or a shower curtain or something, but it just looked like a pillar, so I used that just because I was wanting something kind of serious feeling. I don't know.
Love that.
Actually, on that, when we're talking album covers, can you say anything about the Filthy Funny EP album cover and just like the, strange. I'm not trying. I don't want to say call like janky. I'm trying not to use that word, but like it's a car, the front of a car that's just very kind of from a strange perspective.
Yeah, I do 3D modeling and like Blender animation and stuff as well. And for that, I got like I think it's like a Ferrari, and it's a 3D model of a Ferrari that I'm clipping through a plane that is a sky texture from like an old sample CD, or not sample CD, I guess it is a sample CD of like stock footage that you could buy like back in the 90s that's up on Internet Archive. I love grabbing those old ROMs and using the images for stuff. So it's just that, and then also the camera is doing, I forget the name of it, but it's a type of perspective where the further back something is, the bigger it looks. So the light is actually bending inverse. And I was playing with that, and then that all together kind of made this weird, like, dreaming about a material thing and wanting it, but it's also like not real. Just kind of more on that like liminality. I just love to pull that kind of weird, uncanny feeling out.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I immediately struck by looking at it.
Yeah, I thought it said something, but even I don't really know what it says. It's just kind of like, oh, this is kind of weird.
Hey, sometimes that's
Like,
enough.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like this. It's evocative. It makes people, click play.
I love
Yeah,
the
we have to work on it.
cartoonish, like a render album cover kind of approach you have.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of a lot of stuff Fire Tools does, or like Igloo Ghost. But different, of
Yeah,
course, like
yeah.
unique, like not to compare you to two other artists, but like
No, I think
Sure.
all of us come from a similar methodology and a certain perspective, but all
it's
have
very
our own takes and-
escapist, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because
I mean,
I
it is
try
a
not to be
compliment.
escapist.
Really?
Yeah, I try not
okay.
to be. Yeah.
I guess art is
that's
subjective,
something
no?
that- Yeah, I think that I try to be like, I try to go through the lens of escapism and like grab them and be like, no, you can't avoid this. Like,
How
no, your
interesting.
feelings are real.
Right. Yeah, I love that. It's a good message. Well, hey, I mean, I guess that's a beautiful thing about art. Like, I may pick up on something that's the antithesis of what you intended to communicate, and like, whoops.
No, and I don't take it as an offense. It's just like, that's the patina that I'm working with, and then once I grab them, I still try to take people along a journey that's like, no, like, these things are real, your feelings are real, these overarching themes are bigger than you, you're living in them, like, we can't run away from them, but through that initial
that's so healthy.
otherworldly bit, it still
Yeah.
gets them, and we get
Music
a
to
little bit of it.
challenge your feelings too. Yeah,
A little bit,
yeah.
Oh,
Cognitive
yeah. I like
behavioral
that.
therapy, courtesy of Floor Baba.
I'm not licensed.
Yep.
Yeah.
You heard it on
This is
Hot
not
Takes.
medical advice.
Man, we are down to our last 5 minutes of the night, which means question time is over. We like to finish our show out by giving you the time and space and focus to kind of put us on. Let us know what you've got coming up. Promote some of the stuff that you've done recently. Let us know how we can find you, follow you, and support you. Shout out anybody that you want to shout out. The floor, Baba, is yours.
Yeah. Shout out to my cooperative Pluswav. They're all super great to work with, and we're doing cool things. I am working on Pac Man Snack Breaks. That's coming out with monthly episodes. The first one just dropped. You can check that out. In Pittsburgh next month, I'm playing a show at SideQuest. I think that's on the 26th of next month. I'll be doing lots of new stuff there. I just released an EP called Through Here that you can get a really good example of a lot of the aesthetic leanings that we talked about here today. And thank you guys for having me on.
Our pleasure.
Floor Baba, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I feel like I learned a whole lot. And I'm really
I had
excited
fun.
about checking out DigiFew, as I'm told, in chat. Digital
Yeah.
Fusion.
Check it out.
Like,
There's
that
a
could
lot
be
of
the
really
next
smart
big-
people.
Could be the next big thing, the next big like crossover. Quiz, what do
Yeah.
you have going on? What have you been into? What's up? What's going on?
Oh man, a lot's been going on. Not too much to report. Just trying to make it through lately.
Yeah, you.
I am working on some stuff with my band. We're aiming to have some music out, maybe end of the like fall, winter-ish. So I don't know. I feel like I don't want to tease too much because I gotta get it done, But I think
Yes,
this has
sir.
been that sort of like we're gonna get something out if it kills us, and it's already gotten close, so we might as well see it through. So more on that later, I hope. I'm not having a whole lot going on. I think I'm gonna try to make it to I2K2
Hell yeah.
in August. and
I'm excited
things
about
are
that.
crazy, but I think I'm still gonna go ahead and move forward with the next Vapor Aid in November.
Ooh.
Probably at least just depending on what's going on. I might do it at a different part of the year, or like maybe start organizing it sooner this year than I usually do. So Vapor Aid I think will be coming back, but yep, till then just kind of hanging tough. I honestly just want to shout out and just appreciate all of you guys in the chat, hot takes friends, especially in the hot takes Discord. I know Discord is not for everyone, but it's a really nice community we have in there. If you guys do like Discord, maybe give us a try. People have been very supportive. Again, it's been a lot going on my end, and a lot of people I care about and people who make music that gets me through it are with us right now, and that means a lot. So I appreciate all of you all.
Man, we're not perfect, but we try to be. Did you see I wore my Vapor Aid shirt to New Vision?
Yeah, I saw that. I loved it. I was going to wear my Young Shiro shirt tonight, but it was dirty. I already wore it.
It's all good. It's all good. That's flattering. So I performed a 30-minute Future Funk set for New Vision's Detroit, which we talked about briefly during the little break we had. We went to Detroit, right? And Brick Mason and Doki Doki Beats organized a really sick show at the there's like a upper kind of deck that's like kind of open, but like not completely. Like there's like an indoor part and then an outside part, sort of. But it was all like fresh air at this place called the Majestic Theater. And that was in Detroit on Woodward. I think it was Woodward. So wouldn't surprise me if you've been there. There was a bowling alley downstairs. Really cool joint. All of the people that worked there were dope. The green room was great. I was telling Brick and Doki multiple times during the show. I was like, you know how I know this show is going really well? There's nobody in the green room. Nobody. Like I went back there to get a drink or just kind of sort some stuff out. Nobody was back there. So like 90 people I think came out, which is it's good for a vaporwave show. Like we had some some stragglers walk in and changeovers went smooth. Frank unfortunately had an issue with his saxophone, but overall just a really excellently they pulled it off really well. We had everything from like Slushwave, an excellent set by Victory Over Death. If you like just extremely like morose sounding ambient music played at very loud volumes with like no more than maybe like 2.5 to 3 minutes per track. Like great for the ADHD people like me, but also just wall of sound, ambient. It's just great, man. It was probably the highlight of my night. But anyways, all that to say, my set's up on SoundCloud. I just mixed some deep cuts, stuff by That's Matt, Cyan Blue, Unibeat. I think there was a Unibeat track. I can't remember. Barb Walters, the good stuff. And it's up on my SoundCloud if you guys want to check it out. And we're going to be at i2k.live August 14th. I'm doing day one along with That's Matt, Uniwa, and some other terrific people. Speaking of which, I believe Dreaming Diary is performing. I think he's in chat. Luxury Elite, Whitewoods, some other amazing people whose names I'm forgetting because I'm just terrible at remembering this shit. But you should definitely get tickets. It's going to be in Richmond, Virginia on the 14th and 15th. You can get tickets for day 1, day 2, or both, and you should definitely get both. Otherwise, you won't see Young Shiro, and you'll miss out, and you'll get FOMO all weekend. I don't know when I'm going to perform yet, but it's going to be basically up to whatever Roche Corp and Van Gogh want me to perform. But definitely make sure you guys have a good time. Not a whole lot going on otherwise. Might do that Vapor Loot. Do you guys see Vapor Loot 3 is in planning? Apparently, Bort Media is in charge of Vapor Loot 3. That's awesome. Yeah. If y'all aren't following Bort Media's curated vaporwave playlists and sets, you definitely should, because he's an excellent crate digger and he's in charge of Vapor Loot 3. I don't know, I might throw something in that. I think they only want like 20-minute sets. We'll see. But yeah, as Rose said in chat, you can definitely pre-order shirts for i2k.live as well. It's gonna be badass, dude. Him and Vincent know how to throw shows.
Yeah. Last two have been so awesome.
Dude, I can't wait to come out. I'll be there both days.
of artists too.
Yeah, and it's a reasonable price, bro. They're not charging $80, $40. You know, just come out, man.
Seriously.
Be with your friends and
Another
your
one.
fam, dude. You know, it was so nice
Another
seeing so many
one.
people at New Visions Detroit. Come out to i2k.live, man. Be with your family. That is it. I'm so glad that we got to have this evening with you, Floor Baba. Thank you so much. You know, considering your acclaim and the things that you've done, and we appreciate that you gave up your valuable time, you know, and spent it with us. I hope you guys had a good time in chat. Definitely check out our Discord. Check out our curated YouTube playlists. Donate if the spirit moves you, and follow us on socials. We're gonna be here same time, same place in 2 weeks. That's Monday night, June 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to bring on Sage Hardware. If you're not already familiar, Sage Hardware did some work with Vape Error, and he is an excellent purveyor of such fusions as, say, breakcore and metalcore.
True.
Crazy. So
True.
we're very excited to be bringing him on the
Doing a lot
show.
of new stuff.
Otherwise, we're going to run the ads for i2k.live and the upcoming Vapor VA compilation. And I hope you guys all have an awesome night. It was delightful to be with you tonight. Thank you so much
I
for
have one
tuning
last
in.
thing I'd like to say.
Let's hear it.
Ambient artists be like, this is a new one.
Factual.
What did you think? No, I've recently discovered a love for ambient music, and I have so many recs from mostly you guys. So thank you so much. 'Cause
Great.
I'm very with a lot of that stuff now.
Great. So definitely throw those in the Discord, and you won't be able to see what quizzes Rex are unless you join the Discord. So everybody have an awesome night, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Take care.